Hi, everyone. I'm Judi Platz, Chief Customer Officer at SupportLogic. And today I'm joined by Joe Andrews, the Chief Marketing Officer at SupportLogic. Joe, we always
to be here. Very happy.
Thank you. I know I've heard from others that it was high time you and I got back together and did a session together. So we're going to try to get through this and be serious, right?
Having fun.
Okay. So, Joe, I am going to ask you an icebreaker question. Did you do anything interesting for April Fool's Day to either your coworkers or your family?
Somehow I knew this was coming. And, I have to mention my co-collaborator with it in this, which is Judi. So Judi and I had devised this scheme a while back of trading members of our appropriate teams. So we actually traded 2 of our marketing players for 2 of our customer success players. And, we had joked about it previously, but this time we put it out there in an internal announcement. We actually made basketball trading cards to go along with it because it was happened to be March Madness. And we just had fun with it. But that's the kind of fun that we have between marketing and customer success.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to spend some time today talking about is, this amazing collaboration that we've built and, what you're seeing in the industry, Joe. So if we can, let's take a bit. Can you just talk to me about your background? What brought you to SupportLogic? Who are you? A little bit about that.
Yeah. Who's Joe? So going way back, my career has been largely all in tech, largely on go-to-market side of things, marketing roles. I actually started in sales. I was doing sales development, led sales development teams. I did a stint as an account manager selling software to customers, which is interesting because we'll come back to that. And then I got into marketing, and I really loved the mixture of the science with the creativity. I love the one-to-many aspect of it. And that's where I've been really since. I did a short detour back about 20 years ago when I was a business analyst in business operations, and we were supporting the support center and call centers for one of the largest software companies in the world. And I learned firsthand what it's like to be in support and to be in support operations. And the long story short, we were basically trying to improve first call resolution. That was one of our key process indicators. And we went in and we did surveys. It was all about understanding the customer experience through the lens of the survey, which back then Net Promoter Score was just finally starting to come out. And we were going all in on it. And it was good. Executives loved it, single metric to measure the business by. But I saw firsthand the limitations of surveys in terms of the bias, the inactionability, the time delay. And, fast forward 20 plus years, I met Krishna and I learned that he was doing something about it with SupportLogic. And that's what led me to come back to SupportLogic, or to come back to the support space in a marketing role. One of the other interesting things is I spent a few years marketing technology. And we all know that the MarTech space, right, the landscape, as we call it, marketing and sales technology, is like 9,000 vendors. It's very busy. But, as a marketer, marketing to marketing people, I was like you, Judi, marketing to support and success people.
Right.
And so that's why it's sort of fun to come back now and have this conversation.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you're here. You interviewed me when I was interviewing at SupportLogic, and I still remember the first conversation when I met you. And I so appreciated your transparency and such. But the one thing that stuck out to me then, Joe, was you had this crazy passion for this company. And, I did too, but I had been a customer. So, I thought, boy, if they can be that passionate inside the walls and I'm this passionate outside the walls, how fun is this going to be, for us to get together like that?
passion for me needs to be aligned with the mission. Some people say, oh, I could sell ice to Eskimos, right? Meaning I can apply myself in a functional role at any company. I feel like life is too short, and you have to apply your skills in to the interests that you're really passionate about. At least for me, that's been a part of my recipe for success.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Joe. So tell me something in those roles that you were in, because you've been in the industry and you saw really we'll call it birth or the reformation in some cases of customer success teams. Talk to me about the importance of customer success teams in some of the organizations that you had in the past.
Absolutely. Like everyone else who was in tech, prior to say a decade ago, it was always right pre-sale, right, to all the work processes to acquire a new customer, and then everything after that post-sale, which was largely support. And in the case of most of my career has been in software. We sold 3-year enterprise license agreements. And then the post sale was all about, okay, now we're going to go back to them and essentially resell them. And yes, try to sell them more. But it was like two big motions, 3 years apart. And so the challenge inherently, and this is sort of the background of why support as a function I have a lot of empathy for, has been seen as reactive and has been seen as a cost center. Believe me, marketers are empathetic to the notion that their function is a cost center because it's the same there. But now we've seen the rise of subscription economy. I was previously at Zora. A decade plus ago, we saw this shift where consumers, and not just media companies, right, newspapers, media, but everything from electronic equipment, software, farming equipment, anything could be sold on a recurring revenue basis, and that has really changed the industry. So now, what's even equally or more important than landing that initial customer is expanding the relationship over time, which you earn the right to do by providing a good experience throughout the customer journey. And that's, for me, that's why customer success is so important, and why there's a lot of realization among tech companies. Judi, we're right in the heart of it. But financial services companies, manufacturing companies, sort of older, non-tech oriented or tech first companies, right, are really coming along for the ride. And so we're seeing this everywhere.
Early on, we were joined at the hip for a lot of different things that we were individually working on. And whether it was you or maybe Ryan from the team or Blake, you came up with Project Unify, right? And literally now everybody on my team is so joined, hence the trading cards, right? Is that something you've always done, or is this something that, kind of to your point about the post-sale experience and such? Because I've never had it. I love it. But I think you're doing something in the industry that isn't being done everywhere else by going on this journey with us together. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, thanks, Judi. And that's another area that I'm really passionate about, because for so long, marketing as a function was aligned with sales, which, as we just talked about, was first and foremost focused on acquiring a new customer. And then it was sort of thrown over the fence to anyone who cared about post-sale customer experience, which in most cases was support. And marketing wasn't really involved there. There were sort of two sub-functions in marketing. One was around customer marketing, which was really about enlisting your best customers as advocates for the sole purpose of selling to new customers. And that still exists, very important. But then there was also retention marketing, which became sort of a customer marketing function. Now it's really the walls have come down, as we've said, and in looking, so my experience was really never working primarily with a chief customer officer or working with the post-sale, customer journey team. I mean, customer journey mapping has been around for a while, but I think it's been used in sort of siloed functions like product and engineering and also support. And now we're seeing the chief marketing officer really become that champion for the entire customer lifecycle journey in partnership with the chief customer officer. So I think this is an exciting time. We've gone through these shifts, and I think there's still so much ahead that we can do because we're really just getting started. I would say we're not excelling yet at it.
Yeah.
As an industry.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad, again, I'm going to say that we have the partnership we do. And I love seeing, your, kind of thumbprint, your footprint on this part of the business, because I think you're becoming very much a trendsetter in this industry for what you're doing and how you're doing it here. Let me ask you about support experience. You have built something here with Krishna and, with the employees of the company. Do you think support experience is really a thing? Is it a category? Is it people should be very serious when they see SX and they think, oh yeah, I know what that means.
You mentioned the category word, sometimes dreaded, sometimes lauded. So support experience, let's talk about how we define that. When I joined the company, now it's 3.5 years ago, Krishna and I sat down and we sort of walked through the vision of what we're building and doing at SupportLogic, and going back to sort of how we talk about the corporate narrative. In any industry where there's a tremendous shift, it all starts with change. And so the change is that support experience is now important across the entire customer journey. And so that's a new thing, relatively speaking. And all the challenges that get in the way of that, the cost center, the firefighting, the resource contention, et cetera, those become the things that we pick at. So our mission is to help companies along this journey. Yes, we're a software vendor. We want you to buy our software. We think it's great. So do our customers. But it's all about, I like the word movement over category. It's about, we are a catalyst for a movement among many other sort of support leaders, early adopters in the space who raised their hand and said, I'm going to be a part of this because this is the way to go forward. So long-winded answer to the category question. But I think the word category, by the way, just as a background, it goes back to consumer packaged goods. It's, toothpaste, it's cars, it's software that does a certain function. And for forecasting purposes, analysts and others, right, like to sort of define things in boxes, which we call category. So ultimately it's not, and I've had the benefit of working at companies like VMware and Zora, where we were really helping to forge new categories. But at the end of the day, it's not up to a single vendor. We're all in this together. And this is about a movement to change the way that companies deliver that support experience to their customers. And we're proud to be a part of that.
Joe, part of what you've done here too, and again, you're here in front of me and we're talking about it, and I do want to give you credit because you have really brought so many of us on this journey, is SX Live, right? I've been in the industry a lot of years. We've all been to conferences. We have our favorite conferences. We have the ones that we know they're good to go to, but maybe I don't have to keep going. But this thing called SX Live and what you've done and the library content and things like that, if people are thinking about how to make more of a brand and stuff, what would you say? How did you approach SX Live in the way that you did to go from nothing to, if I'm not mistaken, 12 or 1,500 in the first year attended? Do you want to riff on that for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely, Judi. So I think, back to the movement. In any movement, whether it's, a technology innovation or political or other types, you need people, and you need congregation of minds to who influence each other and who get better as a collective whole. And so for us, I mean, I know this sounds maybe disingenuous because we are a software vendor, but we also believe that for this movement to rise and to get momentum, that we need to build community of these likewise like-minded individuals and companies. And so we started a couple of years ago to envision doing that. Like many other companies who've been part of these category defining movements. And there really wasn't, we started with sort of the current state. There wasn't a dedicated support event series. Now, companies used to host meetups. This was pre-pandemic, and we'll talk a little bit about the impact of that as well. So a few of us in Krishna decided we wanted to start our own, and we wanted to start it and be the catalyst, but that ultimately its success would be determined by the uptake of the community. And so we started, because of the pandemic, we wanted to do a big in-person event. We started doing a virtual event in that first year that you referenced, that you were a part of. You were a presenter and panelist. We had, I think, over 1,500 people, and it really speaks to just the appetite and the desire for community to be a part of this. And so we've had a series ever since of both virtual events, and we do a roadshow of city tours. And you can, of course, see all of that content on the library.sxlive.com. And we want to get back to more in person. We know that there's a thirst to have this face-to-face interaction for knowledge sharing, for networking, for camaraderie. And so we're looking this year at ways to do more in person and to blend the two.